So we have a minor change in format. I will read questions for Vitaly now, and to the rest, it is as usual. He will answer, and then we will discuss. Also, I will pick up the questions for the meetings. Maybe we can, in the end of the meeting, we can discuss how to better collect the questions. And also we have picked up only one topic for today. Vitaly asked it not to be cosmology, so it's human studies, so everyone can have some opinions. Now I can, I don't know if we need, but I can post in chat the list of questions, just in case.
I wanted a little clarification on the natural environment. You get that?
Yeah, and so now I posted the PDF in chat.
Okay.
And so all of the questions are around actually one topic. What is the better conditions for human well-being? So let's start with the first one. What is the role of the natural environment in human well-being, such as physical and emotional conditions?
All right, so I guess I have to start, right?
Please.
Okay, so I think first of all, since we are trying to discuss the subject in the context of the neural network theory or theory of learning, it would be try to identify what those words mean. And so my attempt to that, and of course, I'm not claiming to know all the answers, but the way I view natural environment as for a learning system being a human is the background. The background which the person sees around himself when he is doing some stuff, learning something, right? The reason why I call it a background, because it is something that is present there regardless of what you do. You read a book, you listen to music, you study for general relativity test, and you know, there is something that is there that is indirectly sends you information. Now, since this is the information that you get in context of the neural network theory, it is still a training data set. It is still something that you are acquiring as you are trying to learn something about your environment. So it's a part of your environment. It is a background part of your environment. Sometimes it is considered as noise, in a sense that you don't want to see distractions, right? When you study, if birds are singing, maybe it can distract and you may not be as productive. Other times, if maybe you're stuck on some problem and you don't know how to solve it, it may be useful because you may see some patterns in that background that may turn out to be useful for studying a particular problem you're studying. So let's say you're a mathematician, you're trying to understand fractals, and then you look around and you see a whole bunch of fractals around and you see, aha, so maybe there is some relation to that. And then in that background, you can acquire useful information. But in both cases, whether it is helping you to learn whatever you're learning or harming you, in both cases, it is still part of the background that is always present there. Now, some people know how to filter it well when they concentrate on certain things. Others people don't know how to filter it, and they're constantly distracted. So they have a problem of concentrating on a given problem. So that's the first word that appeared in the question. So it's a very long answer, but I think we should first try to define what is it that we mean by the natural environment. I would call it as a special kind of background that's always there. Okay, Revel, go ahead.
Well, so I mean, I was thinking last night when I read this question, like I could maybe pose an argument that everything's part of the natural environment, everything on the planet, the sky, the land, the mountains, the sea, and you know, the all the animals and the people and all the machinations of civilization, and maybe even outer space objects could be included, the solar storms and such. So where is the dividing line, I suppose?
Right. So I don't think there is a sharp dividing line, but there is a sense of what we usually mean by it, right? So when we are talking about natural environment, we do not mean the nearby stars, although we can also mean them if we see them with the naked eye, right? But there's certain things that are present there that you wouldn't call it a natural environment just because, or they are just not contributing much to the information flow from this background. So that's one divided line. So right, you don't want something very far away from you, although you can in principle see it with a good telescope. You don't want to call it because it is not present in your under normal it is not part of the information that you receive in the normal conditions when you are not equipped with the special telescopes and equipment. Now, right, that's one dividing line. Like something very
sunlight's there all the time. So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's there all the time, but just for the sake of defining things, we say,
okay,
let's worry about that. And then there's another dividing line, right? Something that is I call foreground, something that is really, this computer. It's right here in front of me. My neural network is processing information that comes from this computer, and that is also a part of the data set that is being learned by my neural network. Yet it is not a background. It's not something that is like always present there. Now, so I put a boundary there. So there is some background which is always present there, and then there's some foreground. It can be any gadget, any iPhone, or any book I read, anything I do. Now, whether to put the walls of my house, which also give me a lot of information as a part of the background, yes, yeah, yes, it is a part of background, but it's not what people would call a natural environment, right? So then I have to push this boundary even further and say, no, it is actually something that's outside of my house that is I would call a natural environment. And we'll come to a point whether it is useful, what kind of natural environments there should be if we just define certain boundaries and say, okay, something further away from me than my nearest neighborhood, and something not so far away that can only see with a telescope. So if you put those boundaries, then there is a question that Katya will probably ask whether what should be the ideal natural environment in the background. But let's not get there. I just want to get definitions first. So some background. I don't want to call it noise because it will be very disrespectful to the what we are trying to accomplish here, because we are trying to actually see how make that noise useful. But in a sense, it is, because when I read a book or I do my research or write equations, all that is noise. It's something that kind of stops me of concentrating on whatever problem I'm trying to solve when I know how to solve it. Now, when I don't know how to solve it, I need new clever ideas. Then I think that's when that what seems to be like noise is actually inflow of possible features, correlations, patterns. Patterns is probably a better word. That may be useful for whatever question I'm trying to solve. So okay, so that's one definition. I just want to finish with a second definition, and then we'll go criticize.
Let's hear what Victor is.
Okay, Victor, go ahead. Yeah.
What's the question? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
What's the question? We're today talking about the level of about a single individual. We are talking about well-being of an individual, not any level of system, family, or humanity. Yes.
Yeah, psychology. Right. Very good. Sorry, I will jump in to answer this question. Yes, psychological level, where the learning system in this multi-level learning is a person, human being, right? Yeah.
Okay, then probably, yes, that's certainly we have to talk then about something which is in the environment and which is the direct influence on on a single individual, which what is in his direct connection with him. But then I would like to discuss whether it's really the difference between environment, external, and other categories of information of environment is something which we can influence and which we cannot. Is it relevant for this discussion? So I can choose the book, I can paint the walls, but I cannot influence the quality of air pollution in the city I live. Is this important distinction in this
Right.
context?
Yeah.
How
So,
about
so I think you can. I think you can. Maybe not just by yourself, but with the help of others. But you can go ahead and plant trees around your house, and that plant more trees, and in a while you will recreate your the time scale of that natural environment to change is much larger than the time scales of changing the nearby environment. But you can still affect it. Yeah.
but then it brings the air quality into another category. It's not an external environment, or it remains. I don't want
Okay. So I think this is like another layer here, right? What is the environment if we are considering the situation where we do not back react on it, we do not change it? And then the second question, if we can back react it, if we can change it, how can we make this environment?
all the books in all the libraries which I can potentially read. Is this the external part of external environment in your terms?
Right. No. The books and everything you acquire, all information you acquire, books, trees, ideas, all this comes through different channels like light, sound, and all this information you acquire. But it's all your like training data set, right? But what I try to do first is to separate different types of incoming information into something that we'll call natural environment. And then books are not natural environment. They are an environment. There is a training data set, but they're not part of the natural environment in this definition.
But quality air pollution, air quality, is it natural or?
Yeah, and those things are part of the natural environment, right? So larger time scales when things then can change. And I think that's what people mean by when they call a natural environment. So they wouldn't call a library the content of books in a nearby library as a natural environment, but they will call buildings and the library itself we call
So
it
I don't understand then. So what else besides books? I mean, could you name some other categories of things that you would exclude from the natural environment?
Oh, sure. So like your computer, right? I would exclude even people that I'm interacting. Well, okay, so that's debatable. That's debatable. Okay, but so with people I shouldn't be excluded, but something that you are like working on. Let's say you are a painter, right? It depends what your skills are, what you're doing. So if you are a painter, you paint a picture, whatever, the painting, and then that is something you're working on. This is your foreground. This is something you are directly involved with. This is not a background. This is not a natural environment. You are working within a natural environment where you are creating the painting, the result of your work, or you write a theory, or you building a house. This is a result of your work, which you conduct in the background of the natural environment. So
Okay,
I guess you are using physics jargon, you are weakly coupled with that environment. You have a coupling with them, you have interaction, but it's only very weak coupling.
Start planting trees, and then suddenly the nature, the air becomes not a background for me, but it becomes the area of my direct influence.
Exactly.
And
If you're
so,
working on it, yes, exactly.
Yeah, you're
okay.
working outside.
Yeah. So if you go outside, start planting trees and you're doing gardening, then this is the result of your work. You have a much stronger interaction with that part, and then everything else outside of it becomes the background of your natural environment. Now, in some background, you would be more successful in planting trees and doing your work or making paintings. In other backgrounds, it will be harder for you to concentrate on your work and you to do whatever it is more important. So I think, if we are to actually use the physicist terms, the strength of the coupling. How is it that if you can strongly influence it, if you are directly coupled, then this is your foreground, I would call. If you are weakly coupled, that's a part of your background.
So it seems like you're placing an emphasis on how we can affect the natural environment, and that is, and if it just is affecting us 99%, then that doesn't count so much.
No. Okay, Victor, go ahead.
Once we start affecting it, it stops to be background and it became foreground.
Exactly.
So
That's the whole.
I understand. I have a feeling that I understand this distinction, but I just don't understand how you will proceed, how it's useful for you. So
Right.
no more
Yeah.
question at least for me.
Right. And then then the next question will be asked, which background is more or less useful for whatever things you are doing, right? And one of the things is, again, we're just getting to the second word in the definition, is well-being. So within which background, within which natural environment, background environment, whatever you want to call it, you would be more your well-being will be improved, right? For your physical or emotional conditions. Now, in some backgrounds, for some people, this background may not matter. Like for my kids, I haven't noticed any differences whether we are in the house, outside of the house, in Florida and Minnesota. They're all stuck looking at their iPhones and doing their foreground task, playing games on the computers or whatever that they're doing. For them, that background is irrelevant. They are very good if they will feel happy in their own way with their get to play with their iPhones and stuff. So for them, it doesn't matter.
Is it not really suggesting to you that computer internet content is really background for this new generation? That's the first thing which comes to my mind.
Yeah, right. It could be, and then that background is actually harming their ability to conduct, go through courses, read books, and do other learning stuff, because they always have around some place, either computer or iPhone or something that they can play with, and this is always distracts them. It's like a noisy background.
No. If we come to the classic theories of learning, then we know that really there is a balance between searching for something new and searching for a predictable and stable environment. And
That's right.
so that's what we, whole the generation, we try to find it in some travel. We travel between cities, between various natural environments, and we see our balance between all the known to us landscape of certain dacha and some new visuals like mountains or seas or anything, jungles and things like that. They are looking for the same balance in other in other universe. They are looking. They're choosing between familiar games, old good Tetris, or some fancy, fast-changing new first-person 3D battles. And but that's the same from the learning point of view. They are looking for the balance is the incoming stream of impressions, and that's again making me wonder what's the difference between environment and background and foreground.
Yeah.
For some people seek very stable environment. They do not leave their house, and they prefer the same wallpaper. And so and other people travel as much as they can and have everything changing around them. So what's the background and foreground in these two cases?
Yeah, so I think, well, you answered this question, right? So what is background and foreground depends on the person and type of activities he she does, right? And for the purpose of this discussion, I think we do want to concentrate on only those people for which background can be expressed as a natural environment. Because we cannot, well, we can not cover all possible people and habits, but like for those people for which tend to actually sometimes go outside, see the nature, then come inside. For them, it would be difference whether they live in the city or they live in the countryside. For those people, they have a choice of choosing their natural environment, and for them, it is a matter of discussion as to figure out how to improve it. Yes.
So, what about the what's going on in the internal human being? Like my blood chemistry, the coffee I had, the tea I had this morning,
Right.
background thoughts that are going on in my head. Are these,
Yeah,
the internal world of the human?
Yeah, so subconsciously you process all this information, right? But you do not pay much attention to it. That's what background is, right? So the process information is still there. You do not pay much attention unless you are stuck with whatever other task that you do, and then you stop processing this information. So this information still flows through you, right? You still subconsciously or indirectly see that you're right now. I'm in the house, or I'm outside, or I'm on the beach, whatever. But whatever that is. But you are not directly trying to model how is the how do the trees move, or how do the apples fall. This is not something that you directly do usually. But now, of course, you can say, well, no, this is exactly what I do. Then you go outside and start modeling things, and then this becomes part of your foreground. Now I'm trying to understand and model how trees grow, how apples fall, or how sand moves, waves move, and then it becomes your foreground. So this becomes your attention. You concentrate on that.
That's the word. That was just the word I was going to say. Attention. That
right.
sounds
attention.
like
Right. Yeah. Victor, go ahead.
Some indigenous people really do not have any background. If you have to worry about each bush, each tree, each serpent in the, if you have to worry about everything in your environment, you really have no background. You have everything is foreground. If behind each bush there can be a lion which will eat you, and so.
Well, that you cannot do. So you always coarse grain, right? Just because the amount of information outside of you is much larger than you can actually process. So you always have to filter out some information. We kind of discussed it at some point. And so putting a filter on the environment, on the background environment, is what also did, or removing attention from the environment is what also defines that background environment. But yet having it there, being present there, allows you to switch your filter and then sometimes pay attention to birds, watch birds, or observe the waves or trees, and that can give you some new ideas and some new thoughts. So the ability to actually open up that filter to the environment is I think what we are discussing, whether it's useful or not for well-being, right? For physical or emotional
But again, don't understand. It influences my well-being only when I open the filter. something which is passing, which is stopped by my filters. It just do not influence my well-being. I do not notice it. I do not think about it. So
Yeah, if you filter it, you don't. If you completely filter it. So if you are able to completely filter all of the unpleasant signals or information that come to you, if you are able to do that, then you're good. But some things you cannot really filter. So let's say you grew up in the countryside, and then you're used to observing the trees and birds and stuff, and you move into the city, and you haven't developed the strong filter of filtering this background noise, and then all of a sudden you hear the noise of cars honking, and then that drives you nuts, because you cannot really you haven't developed dynamical enough filter to filter that information. Now, eventually, if you live in a city for enough time, you learn how to filter that, and then you become, you start feeling better. Your emotional and physical conditions improved. Now, some people can learn it fast, others cannot, and for those, it is harder to adapt to new environments.
Then returning to the initial question, does it mean that there really is universal recipe for the well-being? You have to learn to filter
No. There isn't. Yeah.
Why not?
Oh,
Why not?
Well, because okay, well, there's one of the few further questions that Katya put together. There is no universal, because it depends on your what you learned, right, in your history. We don't have all our initial conditions are different. Our evolutions all are different. We've been concentrating on different. We're not all the same, right? We have been concentrating and learning different things around our environment. I was studying mathematics and physics. Other people were studying music and arts, right?
Yeah, we're trying, if I well understand, we're trying to formulate something about loss function, which is probably universal for humans. What are
Right.
goals?
Yeah.
You have to find function, and so probably I'm just making one hypothesis that filtering of the ground is really beneficial for the human loss function.
Yeah.
Just,
Absolutely. So it's not only beneficial, it is the only option. There is no way you can learn everything about the environment. There's too much information, so you have to filter some of it. Even if your loss function, fundamental microscopic loss function for everybody, is to learn the environment, it is your choice to decide what is it that you're going to learn about the environment, right? It is up to you.
By your definition, if you set goal before yourself, you bring it to the foreground. It's not a background anymore. So probably just
so your foreground is what you decided to learn, right?
If I want to learn everything about my environment, then everything is my foreground. I have no background.
But that's impossible. But that's impossible to do, just because.
It's impossible. But just background is something which I desire to filter. Just two definitions
That's right.
for the same.
You decide to filter, and yet the well-being depends on how flexible your filter is. So if you filter it completely, then it doesn't matter what is the background is, because you don't see it.
If I filter it completely, then I am up to some surprises. At some moment, the lion comes from the bush.
Exactly, right. So you don't want to do that. So you still open up that filter, but this filter has to be a flexible filter. So you open, close it, and then in some environments you will be okay. In other environments, the lion will go and kill you. In the third environments, the car will hit you, just because you haven't been able you haven't trained yourself to open this filter and close this filter and react properly to once the filter is opened.
Vitaly, could you, for the benefit of people watching this and others, could you define quickly what you mean by microscopic versus macroscopic?
Right. So we, in this view of the world being a neural network, so there is neurons that are present on the most fundamental level, like on the subparticle level, and they're all learning, right? And they're trying to, and there is a loss function for those neurons and for those subsystem that I describe in a very fine-grained way. And that loss function is basically says that let's learn the environment. So any subsystem learns the rest of the universe. But that's microscopic view. That's fundamental view. Now, once you see those microscopic neurons, fundamental neurons joining to form atoms, atoms are joining to form cells, cells are joining to form human beings. On every new scale, there are this fundamental loss function being reinterpreted, and it acquires a different form. So this is in physics we sometimes call a normalization group for a law, where you may have the same principle of how the learning works, but really the terms that are present in the loss function, how it describes, may change. And so if on the fundamental level, it could have been just learn the environment, the more microscopic level, it may be, avoid pain, because pain may kill you, and then you would not be able to learn the environment as efficiently. And every new level, there would be new emergent terms in this loss functions that are present. So whenever we're talking about something fundamental, it's something microscopic. And when we are talking about something emergent, it's something the macroscopic on the scale of whatever organism we are discussing. And we switch, because sometimes the learning system may be individual fundamental neuron, or it can be an atom, or it can be a cell, it can be a multicellular organism. In some discussions, we talked about society as being a single learning system, and so that changes. And when we are talking about well-being, we are fixing the scale. We are talking about actual humans, and we have defined, we discussed what is this natural environment as a part of the background, but we also have to specify a loss function. What is this learning human is trying to optimize? And the two things that Katya mentioned was physical conditions. So you don't want to get killed by a car or by a lion, and then emotional conditions. And again, emotional conditions is yet also a higher level of optimization. Now, so it's not directly tells you that being emotionally stable helps you to learn the environment around you, but it indirectly does. So if you are unstable emotionally, you cannot concentrate on your work, you cannot learn anything about your environment. And if you are emotionally stable, you don't worry about other things that distract you from work, and you concentrate. So there is a correlation from that. Go ahead.
So fundamental is synonymous with microscopic. Emergent,
yes.
And emergent is fundamental with macroscopic.
Exactly.
And the emergent doesn't come back and influence the fundamental.
No, it doesn't. So the fundamental is where things are defined, and emergent is where you kind of things emerge. They emerge from the fundamental dynamics. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
I'm still not sure I understand this distinction between natural and unnatural environment. I understand the distinction you make between foreground and background, but are you saying that the background can be, with natural environment, I mean nature, trees and...
Right, Katya, because for you it's relevant, because for you this is the background, but for other person who is, a gamer who is stuck in the house, had never seen trees in the last, I don't know, year, for that person, your natural environment isn't the environment you would have to worry about. And that's why I want to call it a background environment, right?
Yeah, I mean,
so for him, doesn't matter, right? So that's like, one of your future questions will be like, what's the ideal, natural environment? Is there one? And for some people,
question is what is ideal environment? But I think that we could better to fix to understand natural environment as nature. Maybe it's not suited for everyone, and background can be natural or unnatural, urban,
What's
technogenic. So,
Absolutely,
so this
absolutely.
just can use the terms foreground and background.
Right,
But
very good. Yeah. So
I
I think that
suggest that by natural environment, I don't know, maybe we need some better word, but we need some word to distinguish natural and technogenic or urban or.
So let's here's the proposal. So we agree that there is a background environment and there is a foreground, right? Background is something that you are weakly interacting with. Now you want to say that out of all the background environments, I want to distinguish natural environment. Now, natural environment, I think by construction, it has to contain living organisms. Now, if it doesn't contain living organisms, now, of course, we talked already about this, what is living, what is not living, the boundary is not sharp. Yet, if we put some kind of a boundary and saying, well, this is the kind of where the realm of biology is, and so if your environment contains biological, systems, your background environment, then we call it a natural environment because it was kind of manufactured.
Air quality is probably the only natural thing which influences this gamer in his city apartment. So air quality probably is part of a natural environment, but it is not a living thing in itself.
Yeah, but it's not directly. It's not like nature. The living organism affect the air quality, and air quality affects the gamer. So this is not a directly influence, right? There is not a direct coupling between the nature and the gamer. It's an indirect.
So what is then his for him? Nothing is in a natural environment. If his natural environment is empty, in your understanding,
Yeah. For the gamer, well, other than food, right? So food, contains, or there is still, but it's
food is influenced by I don't know, Argentinian cattle, and air quality is influenced by Amazon rainforest.
Right. No, of course, everything is interacting with everything.
Indirectly, everything is in the natural environment for the same game, as well as for the person in the jungle, the Amazon jungle. So it's we have to.
Right. So I think we're talking about a direct, weak coupling. So now we decided foreground is a strong coupling, background is a weak coupling, and if it coupled directly, then it becomes your background environment, and if that's something that you are coupled directly with is at the same time has a biological origin, then we call it a natural environment. So, for example, even if and it doesn't have to be beautiful natural, right? So it also questionable. For one person, living in the forest is the best natural environment. For other person, maybe swimming in the ocean with fishes is much better.
We're making many fine distinctions. Let's proceed where we are applying them. Why we're making such elaborate distinctions.
Well, I think because we're trying to understand the well-being as formulated.
I suggest that we proceed and try to answer the first question.
We already arrived to a person whose natural environment is empty, and so it does not influence his well-being, as empty set cannot influence anything.
For you, Victor, there is a natural environment, and we can all see this. It's right behind you.
Yeah.
Watch out for the line.
But there is a line.
But
Line
it's obviously part of the urban environment. The city park where I'm sitting with the noise of big avenue in the background. It is not a natural environment. It was cultivated and put here some years ago, and it will die out without influence of the city employees.
Yeah, but it was put there just for a reason. It was put there because people who are living in the cities are used, many who moved from the country to the city, they are more comfortable in the natural environment, and so they're trying to.
I agree, but I think that once we made such a fine distinctions between natural and urban and technogenic, is just no, it's not useful for our next steps of understanding the model. So in this model, which is useful, really this city park is part of the urban and technogenic environment. Uh,
It's
and
in
only
between.
in this
Yeah, I would say it's in between. So you can construct a completely urban environment where there are no trees, nothing, and it's and for some people it may be a very comfortable background environment to live with. But not for all, and so that's why there are some trees planted in the cities because some people prefer to see the trees. I think that comes to the second question, Katya, that you should
We answer the first.
Move on.
Well, I think we did. I think we did. I mean, we said that this affects. There is a coupling, right? So no, I mean, we defined what the natural environment is, and we said that it does affect the loss function. It does affect the physical conditions. We gave examples and emotional conditions, which is harder to give pinpoint. Maybe if you have a lion that jumps on you, that will affect your physical conditions right away. Now, emotional conditions would be affected on the longer time scales. You got attacked by a lion. He didn't kill you and didn't harm you, but now you are afraid of walking in that environment, and that affects your emotional conditions. Same for cars, right? Maybe the car hit you, and that's a physical pain, but then a car didn't hit you, but scared hell out of you, and then that will emotionally damage you. So I think we've said that what it is and how it affects directly when it's directly coupled. If it's not directly coupled, then it doesn't affect directly.
Okay. So the second question is, what kind of contact or relations with the natural environment is optimal for human health, physical, emotional, mental, and learning abilities? But I think we also touched this.
Well, yeah, absolutely right. So I mean, and we did say that there is no one answer for everyone. And it may also change with time, right? At some point I liked the urban environment more. Now, as I have a family, I grow kids, for me it's the more natural environment. The more of a natural environment is more useful for me.
But it seems like we have to define this in the context of what we're all kind of more or less generally experiencing as a culture. Like, I mean, for instance, there's some people that spend 15 years in prison. This would be, a very different environment than what you and I might experience. So I think, focusing on what 95% of us experience in the environment socially and also the experience in the United States would be quite a bit different than Russia, wouldn't it? So, how does this?
No, but I think let's go to the main point, right? So when you give an example of a person in a prison, this is when he doesn't have a choice of choosing in the environment. He was put in this environment, and actually, in Russia also, many people cannot just move around the country and change their environments. It's expensive, so you live where you were born most of the time. But when you do have this option of changing the environment, let's say we remove the obstacle, and you can choose whatever environment you want to live in. Then I think, in order for you to be most effective learner, right? You want to choose something which is not too simple, the environment, and not too complex. So if it's
So we're talking about what people have a choice in, generally speaking.
Right.
But a lot of the world, a lot of the third world, there's not much choice.
Yeah. So I'll get to this.
Okay,
So there are two things, right? Now, having perfect. So the question was, what would be the perfect environment, right? And is there a perfect optimal environment? And I'm saying, first of all, it depends on the person, right? And secondly, even if there is an option for you to choose any environment at all, So let's say you just have infinite amount of money, you can move anywhere, you can create the environment for you. It is even then it's not clear what would be optimal for you. Something that may seem optimal, like maybe living alone in a cabin, may not actually be optimal in a sense that you would not be most productive in whatever work you do, right? You will be isolated. Yes, you'll be relaxed and stuff, but you would not be able to do your work. You would not be communicating the right people. You would not be doing efficient work. So this is one thing. Even if you have the choice of living in any environment possible, in all those environments were already created, it's not clear what should be your optimal choice. And I think it shouldn't be too complex, because if environment too complex, it will keep distracting you. So you'll have to put some more filters and it shouldn't be too simple, because if it is too simple, you would not be having a source of inspiration or whatever that comes with the complex environments, or of seeing patterns that you can later use in your work. So not too simple, not too complex, but exactly what it is something that would have to be modeled and understand. And I think it would depend on the person, right? For some people, it would be one type of the environment. And again, we can talk about just natural environment, or we just can talk about all background environments.
But I think if you start saying, what's best for you, Vitaly, what's best for me, what's best for Katya, then when we can't find the common ground, I think that we're looking for, if you're trying to define some kind of utopia for the human.
But right. I don't think we know what's best for you, for me, for Katya, for everybody else. This is what you think is best for you may not actually be best for you. Again, you can we can ask Katya. Katya, what's the best natural environment for you? Tell us, describe us your ideal natural environment.
Let me answer another question. Actually, I'd like to try to debate a bit about. I agree that different people might need different conditions. That's obvious, but also, as you were just saying, maybe we don't understand what is good for us, and the context in which most of these questions are mine, and the context in which I generated them is that I believe that we are living in a quite corrupted environment, and I think urban and technogenic environment is not good for emotional, also for physical and emotional, psychological health. And this, so we live in corrupted environment with high density that we are not as organisms very. It's not optimal for us, and
it's not optimal for our genome. Is that kind of what?
And living in such corrupted conditions, we produce more corruption. So we don't understand what is healthy, unhealthy. But this is just my opinion. I don't know, and I think that. Also, I think that these things are not researched enough. There are no real investigations, I think, in.
Well, the current environments were not created for the purpose that we're trying to discuss. So I think that the purpose should be creating environments where you can be most creative, where you can generate ideas, collaborations, either on your level or on the higher level in this multi-level hierarchy. The current environments were not designed for that. Yet we are very good in adapting. We are very good in finding, even in this horribly designed environment, finding what's most ideal for us. Like we are trying to.
Well, I think I could make some point. I mean, I'll just throw this out here. So here's something that I would say would be bad for everybody. Refined sugar, for example. This is something, maybe your kids like to eat a lot of sweets. Well, they're going to get tooth decay. They're going to get etc. You know, and this is just something this is bad for all humans in general, right? I mean, there's some things that we can say not good. This is, you know, fundamentally good.
I think most of the things that were done to design environment were not good because they were not designed with the right loss function in mind. If they were, then we would be having a different environment. First of all, we would have a diversity of environments. And right now there isn't much of diversity. There is like either you are living in the city, which you know, more or less you know, the same, or you live in the countryside, which is more or less the same. And then you know, yes, there is something in between, but you either don't get the benefits of the city or you don't get the benefits of the countryside. So there is no balance there. Now, if you want to get the benefit of the both sides to whatever extent, there should be a continuum of possible environments. And they're a multidimensional continuum. So like, you know, access to information like libraries, access to people like density, Katya was talking about different types of people. It's not just the density of people. Maybe some people want to live with a higher density of sport fans. The other people want to live with a higher density of you know, philosophers or physicists, mathematicians, whatever that is. So there has to be, it's a multidimensional space of all possible background environments. And the problem is we're not free to move in this space continuously. We have to perform discontinuous jumps. So you decide, okay, I will move from this town, from the city center to the countryside, and I discontinuously change. Now all of a sudden there is no more coffee shops I can go for, no more libraries, no theaters, but yet I get, you know, nature, birds singing and stuff. And so there's not continuum place. I cannot move in this space of environments in a continuous way and figure out what is actually better for me, right? Even by trial and error. So I think the first problem is to actually having those environments. Okay, and the second problem is being able to move in the space of environment continuously. It wouldn't cost me much to relocate, right? To change my environment. Now, this is not the case now. Right now, any time I move from one place to another, it's a headache. And I know that not all of the continuum of environments exist. So if we can solve those two problems, meaning creating the continuums of environments and then ability to move, then I think all problems will be solved on the individual level. Every person will just find the perfect environment for themselves.
And how could we approach this solving?
Well, first of all, like, you know, would be nice to have statistics, multidimensional statistics. I know people may not know what they want, but say have a you know, ask people, you know, here is the 5 criteria for your environment. Choose what's more important, what's less important, and just give us feedback, right? So some people would.
But isn't it a problem asking people? Because if we already used to wrong things, for example, if we get statistics that many people likes Coca-Cola, which is not a good product in any kind of sense. So what is the sense of that?
But that comes the second point. You don't ask all people, you old people. No, all people. You also ask
old people.
You don't ask all people. You just take a sample, like, you know, 1,000 people. You ask them, they answer questions, and so we come up with a distribution in a 5-dimensional space of environments. We create those environments. We
Sorry,
put this.
I missed. We don't have people, but
what is it?
We have one very good indicator. This is what all the real estate people are really doing. They are prices for real estate, and they are doing many factor analysis to understand this price distributions. And so the prices are good first indicator. We have already aggregated indicator of where the people want to live, what environment people.
That's actually a good point. That's a good point. That's a very good point. Okay, so we can drop the first step. The statistics is already there. Okay, we can acquire. We can just, you know, sample 1,000 neighborhoods. Put those 1,000 neighborhoods into the 5-dimensional space as points, and put numbers there, how much those neighborhoods cost, and this will indicate where people actually want to move. So we'll have a distribution, 5-dimensional distribution of the places where people prefer to move. But one thing is missing here in this picture. If once you put in those environments, you should also allow people to continuously move from one place to another. So very often you think it's a desired neighborhood, you move there, and then you discover that whatever you wanted is missing. You didn't think it was important, but it turned out to be important. So you want to relocate quickly, right? You want to change the place where you live more easily without having to spend a lot of money. Now, if that's possible, then we'll accomplish a second task. We'll also see where people would want to move, and I think that would kind of.
I don't understand how does this answer the question about the problem that people use to unhealthy things. So if we get statistics, what people want to eat?
But there's one thing missing. We just have a distribution. We still don't have the function that defines, the loss function. What is the productivity there, right? So you may have everybody wanting to live in a very desired neighborhood, but once you move there, you stop being productive and you stop generating new ideas. So just wanting to move some neighborhood doesn't mean that this neighborhood is ideal for you, right? So once you move there, you should still be evaluated on the scale of how more productive you became once you moved it. How did your loss function change? Did you generate new ideas? Became more creative, or what is it that you did?
Are we talking about productivity, or are we talking about well-being?
Okay. Well-being is okay. So right, there are various in an emergent scale. There are various terms in the loss function. Physical health, emotional health, intellectual health, whatever it is. There is this whole pyramid of things that you want to the hierarchy of desired things you want to achieve. And so you want to evaluate all of them, right? And you want to decide, maybe for you, it doesn't matter the quality of the food because you end up eating the same food everywhere because you can afford the good food. But other things may vary from place to place. So, and then you would want to choose the place where you are more productive. Yes. And that would be a higher level of achievement that you would want to have there.
So you're tying to.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Sure. See you. So I think I'm talking about Maslow hierarchy, right? There are different levels of what you desire to have, and then once you move from one place to another, there are different things that you would want to take into account. There are just different terms in the loss function, right? So first you want a safety, then you want to feel accomplished, etc., etc., etc. There are different levels in the Maslow pyramid.
And there's a sixth stage too that he proposed right about when he was dying,
right?
Which was the transcendent function,
right? So, but I think all of those things would have to be taken into account. But I think again, the point is, I think right now the point is we're all stuck in the local minimum. We are in some environment, and it's very hard to get out. And it's true for everyone. It's not just for for rich people or poor people. It's the same thing, right? A rich person buys a huge mansion, a very expensive one because he can afford it, and then he finds out that this environment isn't perfect for him because he can't find any friends there or people who share his ideas. Well, it's the very same problem. He has to move. Or to move where? And that move is a discontinuous change. That he's like in the one local minimum, now he wants to relocate. Like in Russia, people who wants to move outside of Russia, they are stuck in the local minima. And so any perturbation would be a huge thing for them, right? So moving anywhere would be a huge change. And maybe once they get there, they'll get in a better minima and they'll be more happier there, or maybe not. And so there is always this risk. Now, if you would be able to continuously move in this space of environments, then it would be a huge thing for you. So the problem is that right now you cannot continuously move. I cannot let just.
But if you're Elon Musk, then you have 6, 7 homes, or 5 homes, and you have one in Hawaii, and you just get in an airplane, you can go there, and you have continuous movement.
Well, I think even for Elon Musk, because he may have and afford huge houses, but he's also probably wants to talk to people like him who also have huge houses, and he cannot just say, all right, you and you, I like you the most, let's move there. Okay, because they may not agree with this, so he cannot really for himself choose. Now, of course, we are now talking moved to, and generalized the natural environment to more of a background environment. But even if we just concentrate on natural environment, on being able to choose a natural environment, yes, if there is a continuum of environments, every single person, rich enough person or with money, should be able to choose that. But you need 2 conditions. You need, first condition is you should be able. Those environments should exist, and in fact, I can name you environments that just don't exist. Like you don't exist with a high population of physicists in their next to their beautiful lake with a rainforest, right? So it just doesn't exist. Such environment doesn't exist where there's a high population of physicists and at the same time beautiful nature setup. There are some institutions who try to create that. They're building institutions in the nice places so that physicists can get together. So people are working in that direction. But that's just an example of one environment that didn't exist. You would have to create. And that's one problem. But the other problem is there is no continuum there. I cannot move there and say, well, actually, it turns out that, yes, there are many physicists and the nature is beautiful, but there is no good hospitals there. So I really need to always travel far to get medical care. And that's not convenient to me. So there's no way for me to actually tune this parameter and because I cannot be nearby to everything perfect, right? And so, but if there's no possibility for me to move in this space of environments, or if it's expensive to move in the space environments, then it's a real problem. So I think that's maybe the biggest problem, that we are not able. We are always stuck in the local minima. And Katya is trying to say, is it possible to find a global minima for each person, or at least a better minima? Again, let's take an example of a person who lives in Russia, who tries to move out of Russia. How is he's not able to just travel to a new environment, live there for a week or a month, and then decide that it's better and then relocate? It's just not possible, right? It just you cannot go try and then come back if you don't like. If that would be simple and cheap, then everybody would find their ideal place. But there seems to be a very discontinuous change in your personal loss function when you move from one place to another, and that's the problem. So we are kind of all stuck in local minima using the terminology of the loss function.
And again, do you have ideas how can it be solved?
Well, I think the first problem is creating diversity of environments nearby. So let's say if you have so if you know that your ideal environment is in Brazil and you live in Russia, that's far away, right? But if you knew that within a 100-mile zone there is all possible environments possible, and you just go and choose and try it, then it would be easy to creating so I think the key is to create the diversity of environments everywhere, not just it's not just one environment per planet, right?
How can it be achieved or approached?
Right. So but for that, I think maybe Victor was right. Studying what is it that, okay, you need money, of course, for that, but studying what the people want, first of all, it's a good indicator, right? Questioning them, and then making a global plan of creating those environments based on the people's need, what they're asking for. Now, it may turn out that people what they want is not really what they will like, right? So it's I can it happens all the time, right? You think this is what you want to do, you move there, and then it turns out exactly not to be And to resolve the second problem, going back and doing this learning, right, back and forth, should be cheap. So people try doing like
really good. So the what people want is not necessarily what they've been programmed to believe. What they want is not necessarily what's going to be best for them.
Actually, I know people who are the opposite of this. They always want what they don't have, and when they get it, they hate it. And so there are many people like this. And so it's really, but if it's easy for you to come back, so if you like don't burn all the bridges, right? You try it, you don't like it, you come back. If you have this flexibility of moving around through environment space, and if it's cheap, then it's a win-win for everyone. Now, and to make it cheap, it has to be no nearby move. So you don't want to move far, right? Because it's usually expensive to move far. I don't know if this is the biggest.
I would counter by saying, like, for instance, my cost of living here in Oregon is going to be a lot greater than it would be in Thailand, and I could fly to Thailand and then live on $1,000 a month like a king,
right,
and still interact with you and maybe teach a class or do something. So these are available environments to us.
Right, but don't you want to try it first, right? So I mean, if somebody tells you, okay, here is an apartment in Thailand ready for you starting October 1st, just go there. You will live for a month. If you don't like it, you come back, and it will all this thing cost you, I don't know, $1,000. That would be perfect for you. You go and try, right? For little money, you don't have to worry about anything else. If that would be possible to like, if you want to. It is a part of relocating, right? Now we're talking about relocation. There are two things, right? First, creating environments, and then being able to move through environments. Okay. So now they both are problems. Like you can have all those environments and not able to move through them, doesn't solve the solution. Or if you are able to move through environments and they're all the same, like cities in the US, all towns in US like look alike, right? Then maybe it's not a good solution either. So you need both. You need to have a diversity of environments and be able to move. And I think one is harder to accomplish, but it's a straightforward task. Just let's collect data of where people want to live. Now, I maybe not completely agree with Victor that real estate data give us all information, because real estate data maybe don't show and tell us, how many people with a PhD in physics or mathematics live in a certain neighborhood. They would show you what's the medium income, or what are so other measures of success that is maybe irrelevant to me, right? So maybe I don't care how much person is living or how beautiful his or her house, but I do. For me, it's important to know what the person knows, right? So and then for me, choosing the right environment would not be something that is already calculated, and this is a very available data on the internet. And so collecting the data where people want to live in the environment, that's one thing. Then looking at this data, creating all those environments, and then figuring out how to move between the environments. So I think this is seems to be a straightforward exercise, but it's not for a person or two or for a company. It's on a size, on the scale of a country, right? On a big enough scale, and maybe some countries already do that. But I don't know. So that's another question to ask. And also,
I think you're trying to expand the range of demographics beyond what is traditionally thought of, income and this sort of thing, to more like, where are my people? Where's my tribe, so to speak?
That's right. Exactly. And if I don't like my tribe, I want to be able to move and not being question which tribe you're coming from, right? Because you don't. Now I'm interested in machine learning, and the world is a neural network. Tomorrow I may be interested in painting. I don't know. I want to be able to change tribes if I like, right? And I want to be able to move through those tribes. And if you create tribes based on very few criteria, that's kind of a problem actually in many countries, where the country is like because of a single nation, right? Race, and then it's not diverse enough for this type of diversity of environments to be created. Everybody is just doing the same thing, and
Yeah.
everybody wants to mimic whatever other person does, because if you don't, you will be expelled and from the environment. But and that's bad, and that's bad for this. So diversity is the first thing, and diversity in all senses. It doesn't mean just so in diversity of ideas, diversity of Katya, sorry, we moved beyond the natural environment, but I think the right theme would be background environments. What are the right background environments? And
Yeah, I agree that it's all relevant. Yes.
Because for you right now, you may think your natural environment is more important, but once you acquire your ideal natural environment without correct social environment, you just may be
social environment is also very important.
Very important. And
you are right. The problem is that we don't have proper combinations.
No, but I said we can just list five, like nature, then level of education, I don't know, interests, like a handful of the criteria, and say and ask people what's most important for you, like physical activities, right? Sports, and what's more important, like weight in choosing your environment. What do you weight the most, right? And some people say, well, I want to weight sports. Others, I want to, I don't know, math skills or creativity skills, whatever they are. And then we have statistics of all the people of their ideal environments, how they think they should be, and then we create those environments and take all those people and move in those environments, like 1,000 people, right? We put in their ideal environments, let them live, and if they don't like it, we allow them to relocate, right? Easily. So
what you're talking about, that we can move people, and if they don't like it, but if we know the loss function for every person, right, exactly the loss function, we don't make mistake. We put the person to the correct environment. We can find the global minimum. So yes, the point is to find the loss function for every person, maybe group them somehow, and build this like environments, or put person to this environment. So you don't even need to try many environments if you know the correct loss function for this person.
Yeah, Lida, this is a very good point. So if we have a good model of every single person, of what their loss function is, we can actually, first of all, figure out what their ideal environment and put them in. Now, the problem is modeling a person is a difficult business. So we have to always simplify it. We have to coarse grain over certain parameters, because really what is relevant, what is less relevant for modeling. But if we are able to model, you're absolutely right. We just know the answer. Now, if we are not able to completely model it theoretically, what we do usually phenomenological modeling. We again look at some relevant information, create an approximate model of the person, and for the next person of this kind, we know what to suggest.
Yes,
but to get to that point, we need to have some kind of group of people on which
data set.
Exactly. We do experiment with them. We figure out with what kind of features, what preferences that have, and we always learn, right? Sometimes we make mistake. We made a suggestion to a person, he moved to that environment. He was maybe happy for a week, and then we put two philosophers together, and they just start fighting with each other, and not in a good way.
Yes, you're right.
And then we decide that that's maybe not a good idea to put philosophers. I don't even know if philosophers do that. Physicists do that all the time. So if you put two theoretical physicists in the same room, they start fighting, but they both enjoy it, so they continue fighting and they continue enjoying it. So that's okay. We can.
I think, but we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? I mean, we can look at psychological research that has been done in the past decades, and we can see, what is it that is going to make most.
I don't believe we have good psychological researchers.
Right. Okay. So first of all, I don't think we have that kind of data. Second of all, I don't think it is. Psychological research is well described in terms of distributions and mathematical formalism, unfortunately. So if
you referred to Maslow. I mean, would you acknowledge this as a fundamental kind of
no. Maslow's pyramid is great. What I'm saying that we need data, real raw data, unbiased data, which we can take and from which we can make conclusions. So, for example, statistical data of people describing their preferences that we described now.
But that's qualitative research. That you're trying to quantify something qualitative. It sounds like.
No. So you want to have a quantitative research. You want to obtain real data. You want to obtain real statistics, and from that you want to build a model, right? So let's simplify things. One parameter, only the density. How dense population should be where you live. What is the most comfortable number for you? We forget about everything else. This is like not the correct way to do it. Just one parameter. And every single person says, I want to live in a neighborhood where there is n neighbors in a square mile. Okay, and this n, that number changes from person to person. Some person says n has to be equal to 0. Some person says n has to be 10,000, and it depends on your preferences. Then we construct a distribution of people. Actually, I don't even know if this distribution exists. So with this number, density, what is your preferred density of population in your, not where you live, that we cannot go with, but what's your preference? Now, do you want to have twice as many people where you live now, or fewer people where you live now? Do you lack ability to communicate with other people, or you have too much of it and they distract? So we construct this distribution, and then from that distributions, we can design what should be the right distribution of how many cities there should be, how high the buildings.
I think we can even change the question, like what person wants from life. After that, analyze people that they live in different density populations and what they have, what they get, what are their results. If I want to be like Elon Musk, I need to investigate his life, and I need maybe some environment that is like his environment. You know what I mean? So well, it's not what I want to live in, it's what my goals are in life. And I need to be put in such environments that will meet my goals. So
that's first question was difficult, is to figure out where the person would be most productive. The second question, Lida, is even more difficult, because not only I want to understand where I will be more productive, I want to understand where the integral of productivity over my lifespan will be optimal. That's much more difficult question. So I think let's answer, and then the answer may be to that second question, after you're taking this path integral, do variation and blah, blah, blah. And then it will be first live in the city, at the age of 25, move in the suburbs, and then in the 45, move to the village, and then 65 move back to the city. I don't know. So, and that would be the answer, like this time-dependent answer of where you should live.
Yes, I would like to have such an answer.
Oh, of course. No. I absolutely agree. But I'm just saying that we should start from simple to complex. If we cannot answer a simple question, we will not be able to answer a more complex. A simple question is, how do we increase productivity, not through the lifespan, but per minute, per year, right? So where should you live now so that you would be most productive? And that question is
mixing productivity with well-being.
That's right.
Okay. So I think the reason I'm mixing them is because there are just different terms in the loss function. And the loss function will also be individual, because one person says, I don't care about productivity, and the other person says, I don't care about well-being. And so there'll be different weights to different also. But anyway, there'll be a loss function. It will be phenomenologically modeled, expressed through the data that we acquire from people. But to get started for that, we need at least to get some feedback from them. Now, in this 5-dimensional or 10-dimensional space of environments where you want to live, we get that data, we put them there, and then we see how they move around.
But I think don't you benefit by defining a parameter? So I could imagine in the United States, there's 5 choices for me in terms of population density. I can live in a very large city, I can live in a mid-size, I can live in the suburbs, I can live in the country, or I can live in the woods.
Right.
There's 5. What other options are there? I mean, but you could say, well, I can live, in a smaller village. And you could have 100 different definitions, but I think you have to bring the number of parameters down in order to.
Oh, no. Sorry. Parameters are not the same as possible environments. There is a continuum of possible environments, even
right. Yes.
So when you're talking about density, it is still just one parameter. And it's very easy to create a continuum of that parameter. That's very.
I used the wrong. Yeah, I meant.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. But parameters should be a finite number of parameters. So, for example, density is one, and then all of those 5 places you mentioned, they are aligned along this one parameter, then density.
Right.
Then the second parameter would be, the presence of natural environment. Right. So now it will be hard to achieve high density and a lot of nature, but not impossible. Not impossible. So for example, parks in the cities is an attempt to do that, right? So okay. So there is but maybe you're saying that once I get natural environment and the high density of people, there is another immediate problem that I do get to see natural environment, but there is also, it comes with the social environment right away. Parks are full of people, right? So maybe that's not the type of natural environment you would like. And so again, natural presence of nature is one axis, density is the other axis, level of education is the third axis, readiness to play sports or talk about sports is the fourth direction. I'm just naming the most usually things that people discuss most of the time. What people talk about, sports, right? Or or arts, right? That's the fifth direction. Like, so how many people, how many galleries or museums or things you want to see around you. Right. So then I think it's just, if we cover most important ones, it will not be more than 10. Okay. And this is a 10-dimensional space. And then each person would have to, or maybe we can cut it down to 5 most important ones. And each person would choose what is your preference. Like if you have 100%, what do you value the most? Put percentage wise, 50%, for example, for me, it's important to have, the density. Maybe 25 is nature. I don't know how people will distribute it.
Creating like an active matrix, like I forgot the term.
No, I think you put yourself in you just say, here is a point in this 5-dimensional space. That's where I want to be. Okay.
I think we don't need to ask person where I want to be in this space. We need to ask what I want from life, build based on its loss function, and find this point in 5-dimensional life.
That will be harder. That will be harder. So it is harder without a model of how a given point. And again, this is going from the a theory of states to theory of paths, life stories, right? So knowing, asking where you want to be now, and let's recreate in the environment, and then observe how you move through this environment and how your productivity and well-being changes. That's an easy problem, okay? Because we are approaching it phenomenologically. We're trying to say, okay, let's study.
I don't really think it's easy. I still don't understand how, if you ask people who don't know really what they need because they are programmed by society in a corrupted way, so what can we get from how we can use their feedback on what is
as initial conditions, only as initial conditions. So again, let me try to understand. So there is a distribution in this 5-dimensional space. There are peaks of the distribution where most people want to be. There are valleys of distribution where they want to be. Now we put people where they think they want to be. And then we say, well, actually adjusting parameter now is very easy. All of a sudden you wake up in the morning and say, no, I want to have fewer people in my neighborhood. And you just pick up your clothes and move 1 kilometer away, and you are in a new neighborhood. Easy move. And then we see how this distribution evolves, and then measure productivity of each and well-being of every single person.
So it sounds like you would need to track people almost
yes.
across
oh,
the,
yeah.
almost across
absolutely.
the right. You would have to track people. I'm 20 years old. I like living in the city. I'm
Absolutely.
25. I want to move, and then it's continuing changing. So it seems like there's too much data.
No. That's not a lot of data. No. Just tracking one person. It's is described by 5 numbers, and then you monitor the person once a year. So it's 5 numbers times 100 years. However, it's a very small amount of data for every person, actually, because you just tracking the trajectory, and then you for all those numbers you also track their productivity, well-being. Again, self-evaluated things, right? It's actually a tiny amount of data, because you don't need to have a large sample of people to get this results, right? So you take
So and then what about the well-being of the society, the culture?
So that's a different
thing, and then it's bad for the society. Like we have the environmental crisis, and
right. So that would be well-being would be correlated with the optimizing your own good, right? Your personal loss function. Now, productivity or something, or creativity, something that you create, is for the loss function of the society. So now, but we're measuring both. The person may be trying to adapt to the most well-being place, right? Yet we are still monitoring whether it is benefiting the society. Either he is being more productive, he is producing results, he is generating ideas, and then we have 2 measurements for each person: local loss function, how good he feels, and a contribution to the global loss function, how good the society feels.
And again, the same
rich people want to create a more interest. Go ahead.
Say it again.
How can we measure the what is good for the society? Because at the current point, I think what is assumed to be good is just crazy. So we are destroying everything, and for our comfort. And
right. So I think we discussed at some point. The measure of success for the society is I measure it in the number of original ideas. That's it. So the ideas-based measure of the success of the civilization. So if there is no new ideas being generated, then it was a waste of time and life and nothing. If you are generating new ideas, then you are creating something that the society benefits. So it's not based on money, but based on ideas. Now there is a correlation, because ideas lead to money, but not other way around. So you cannot buy ideas. You can create an environment where ideas are born, and this is what we are discussing. We are creating this background environment which will promote generation of the ideas. Then there will be optimization problem to be solved. Not only you want to generate ideas, but you want to generate ideas by making well-being of people, by like correlating, making their local loss functions of a singular person being correlated with a global loss function of the entire society. So yeah, it is something that can be modeled, can be checked, but I think the biggest obstacle now is not presence of those environments. They don't exist. We don't have the diversity of environments, at least not nearby. And the second problem is not easy to move. So I think if those 2 problems can be overcome, creating environments and then being able to move between them, I think, and then we can monitor, and then we can do the suggestions like Lida was talking about, right? You are the person, you're coming with that background. Actually, we know what's best for you. Why don't you try that in that environment? It worked better, and then it will be like it will be directing you to where you should be.
So here's a question that I thought of a while back. What is the role of the virtual environment? I could be living in Thailand, and I could have a wonderful group of friends, and I could be doing this. And so, what role does that play?
Oh, virtual environment played a great role, and I think it's a crucial role. So right. Yeah. So this is an environment that is easy to implement, cheap to implement, right? You can just, but again, even at the level of the social networks, the social network algorithms are not designed to create a social virtual environment for you to enhance your well-being. No, this is not what the social networking do. They're trying for you, they're optimizing the amount of time you spend on social media, because that's how they can get their revenues. But that's an excellent example of creating an environment, virtual environment, that is more suitable for your well-being. And we should not underestimate it. It may be as important as natural environment, if not more.
I'm picturing a city with thousands of people wearing virtual reality goggles, and I want to go to the woods, and I punch a button, and I'm looking at the trees, and I hear the birds and all that. It's a simulated environment.
Well, okay, that's different. So if that works for you, then I agree. There is a virtual natural environment. There is a virtual social environment, and then creating a virtual environment, whether it's social or natural, should be easier. We're not there yet for the natural environment, because they are not, the virtual reality is not as real as you describe it. But if it's possible, then yeah, then that's actually because with this metaverse,
it might be a good way to model it. It might be a good way to model it, because then you could test it out much more quickly.
Not only model, but maybe it can solve all the problems. So people who are complaining about their neighborhood just put on the goggles, and then I'm not sure it will work to the extent that we want it to work, because we will always know that this is virtual. But hey, who knows? Maybe for some people it will work. For the newer generation of people, maybe it will work, and there will be. Although I would be surprised if they turn on birds and
but then again, you could model it easy, and then people might fall into it, but it might turn out that it's not that great to be operating in this.
It may just not be as productive, may not be the same, right? Because it's, after all, it would be simulated. But yeah, so now we have really generalized this set of background environments, from natural, social, to now virtual natural, virtual social. There is a lot of them. And I believe that there is one ideal for everyone, and then finding it is the tricky part. But you will not be able to find it unless it exists. So
you say one ideal for everyone, but then you value diversity, and
no, right, exactly. Everyone should be able to find their ideal environment, right? So maybe some environments may not exist. They just exist in their imaginary world. Maybe, as I said, philosophers don't like to be with philosophers, but there is one philosopher who wants to be with philosophers. Well, that one philosopher will never be able to find an ideal environment, just because nobody else wants to be with him, right? And okay, so there will be certain empty places in that space of environments. But I think overall, this space was not explored at all. It's not mapped. It's like almost everywhere it's empty. There are only 2 types, or you said 5 types of environments, and that's about it, right? Woods, countryside, the town and city center. That's it. That's
I would imagine 5 population densities are available to me.
Yeah, and then that's a problem, because those environments were not created for the well-being, right, in mind. They were not created for that purpose. They were created for a completely different purpose, for people to move to the cities, so that they don't have to, can be specialized in one aspect and doing something very well, and then sell their skills to others. And so there was a idea of this urbanization. But now I think with the internet and stuff, you no longer have to stay in the city to use your skills, right? You can stay anywhere. And so that's the time where you are not tied to your place in terms of work, yet you still don't have all this diversity of environments where you can move. And I think that this is actually would be a very good idea if that was possible, right? To first create those diversity of environments, and then simplify the motion moves between them. Yeah. That would
Yeah,
be great.
if that was possible, that's the crucial point. I was going to ask actually what it sounds like a good idea, but a bit
Because
utopian.
there's because here you're saying let's optimize well-being. I think like simplest example why this isn't working now is social media, right? Social media, it's also seems to be very easy to adjust algorithm such that everybody gets the most positive emotions from being online, creating new friends, exchanging ideas, and this is not happening. Why? Because social media companies don't care about that. What they want is to create revenue from their ads. Okay, it's really just changing the algorithm a little bit. That's it. It doesn't cost much.
How are you going to get around the problem that everybody wants money?
You're not right. So this is it has to be so it has to be bottom up. So not top down. Not the big guys tell you how it should be. It has to be bottom up. So that people try to form. This is the phase transition we were talking about from the very beginning, right? Where people are establishing connections based on their learning and the interests, not based on the profiting, right? And so that's kind of was if we could create such a network of people where you friend someone just because you want to gain knowledge from him or you want to teach him, right? So based on knowledge and ideas. If such a network would exist, then it would be a phase transition because this whole network would be a lot more productive. I would know exactly who to talk to if I have some question to discuss. Right now, basically, the only solution for people who do research is you have to learn everything yourself. There's I cannot count on anyone. If I need to learn math, I go learn math. If I need to learn chemistry, I learn chemistry, right? I'm not counting on anyone, and that's not productive. And if there is a network where people can actually exchange ideas and form collaborations, then that would be a phase transition we are talking about. That would be this intellectual network of people. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Actually, the last question in the list, I believe it looks like generated by GPT, but still, it's how can we promote positive behavior change and well-being and reduce negative behavior and harm? This is what you are talking about. That now, so to achieve well-being, we first need to aim for well-being and not some other stuff. So, but how can this change happen then?
Well, it will not happen again. It has to come from us, right? So from people, it cannot. People have to be convinced that if they have to be convinced that if they have well-being and they have a good emotional and physical health, then it's useful for the society. So only then it will be now for which society? For a society of bankers, it will definitely not be useful. For the society of large corporations, it will definitely not be useful. So you have to create a society for which well-being will be useful. Okay, once such, it can be small society, then can grow. So if there is a society for which this is useful, then it will naturally start growing, and then a benefit of your well-being will be correlated with the benefit of the society. And I think if the society is formed, if its main task is to generate ideas, then I think there is a correlation. You are well-being, you generate ideas. You have well-being, you are create new ideas. You are creative. And so only if your aim is to generate new original ideas, if this is what your society is supposed to do, then yes, then well-being will be.
What is the tie-in between the number of original ideas and the level of well-being? This is what I don't understand.
Right. So I think the one causes the other. So if you do not have well-being, right? So if you have emotional and physical health, you will not be able, I think, to generate new original ideas, be creative, and you can do some kind of repeated machinery, simple work that robots do. You can do that, but you will not be able to use your creativity and generate new ideas and new things. So that's my guess, right? So they're two that correlated. If you are stressed, if you are under stress, if you are in a constant pain, you are not able to produce new original ideas. We had a whole discussion about that. Maybe we should repeat at some point. What is a new idea and what type of new ideas they can be, because they are very non-trivial. It's not just repeating what you already know, but looking for extracting some patterns through the environment and using them to learn how to do a given task better. It is a whole separate discussion. So if there is a correlation, and I think there is, then creating a society, a community of people where their goal is to generate new ideas. Like, think about this as a company, right? Research and development company. There are companies that just take known idea and do production, right? Mass production of something. There are no new ideas, right? You took somebody else's idea, you produced it, you made a lot of money. Zero ideas. That's how
it works. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, Tesla, right? There's no new ideas. There's some clever ideas from chemists, some clever ideas from other people. So you take this, you create a business out of that, you make lots of money. Okay, will this company ever value your well-being? Of course not. That's not their concern, right? Now they can trick you that they value. They can trick you that they value well-being for some time, so that you get on their hook. But once you get on their hook, that's it. Who cares, right? Now, but let's say you'll be creating a company. I've created a company. That's what we are kind of doing, a research development company. That the main point is for people to generate new ideas. Okay, new ideas that it can be a patent. It can be sold to some other Tesla that will create another vehicle or robot. Now, if this is the task, or academia is a good example. So academia, at least the way it used to be, it was a place where you would want to generate new ideas. And the well-being of the professors and the staff in the universities was very important, because if there is no, if they're emotionally unstable, if they are not in good physical health, then no new ideas would be generated. And okay, so here it is. Here is one example where you have some kind of research and development research firm that once you put people working there in a good, healthy environment, ideal environment, then they are more productive in generating their ideas. And the idea is to create such a social system. And I think this is how we started all this. Can we create a social system where people would feel both educated enough and at the same time be able to generate new ideas and extend them further? And I do agree with Katya that it is very much correlated with well-being. You cannot have one without another. You will not have new ideas.
But you were insisting that this comes from the bottom up rather than top down, and I'm looking at
well, I mean, that's top down and bottom up.
Academia, that's top down. Corporations, that's top down, right?
Well,
I mean,
academia is not. Our original point of academia was that the professors are the main body of the university. It's not. This is not the way it's run right now, right? So now there is a president and there is a lot of administration. Yeah, but the original idea for the universities was it is run by the professors. They are making all the decisions. They're the main people, and administrators are just serving them. They're just removing all the administrative load from them. And that's the idea that has to be implemented. Unfortunately, it went the wrong way, because universities and institutions started generating a lot of profit. They're right now they're run like corporations rather than universities, and that's the problem. That's the problem. And the right way of doing this is you have people all well educated. They have ideas. They can learn. They constantly learn more. They exchange their ideas. and maybe on top of that, they should be put also in the right environment. So that was missing point. I mean, it's okay for us to have, it is one thing to have a network of smart people exchanging ideas, and the other thing is to make sure that all of those people are also in the right environment, which may be different for different people, right? And it doesn't mean that there's not like, it's not like one shoe fits all. It's all depends on people.
Vitaly, I'm hearing here one principal point is you are equating well-being to generating new ideas.
As one of the no, I think it's correlated, right? I think it's a necessary.
I understand that well-being is necessary to generating new ideas,
but it's not sufficient condition, right?
Yes, not sufficient. But and another point is, can one live a good life? I mean, good in terms of well-being, living just, I don't know, some simple life, like not having generated any new ideas.
So guys,
like a monk in a cave. Monk in a cave, meditating all day and not speaking to people.
Yeah, meditating all day. No, but I think about Maslow hierarchy, right? So you're talking, when you're talking about well-being, we are always looking at the bottom of this pyramid, right? Maslow pyramid. So and at the bottom, yeah, there are basic things like physical, but then as you get higher and higher, you get to this to the scale where generating of new ideas and accomplishments becomes relevant. So it's just a higher level of success, or more emergent level of the loss function, but it is still there. And so when you're completely healthy and then you don't have any emotional problems, you will start worrying about higher level things. You'll be looking at the sky, trying to answer questions about the universe, etc., etc., etc. So you will not be satisfied with just living in a natural environment and having enough food. There will always be more that you would want, and that's why I'm saying, but you cannot bypass. You cannot just go there without having basic needs, right? So if you're hungry and you're scared that there's a lion who will jump on you, you will just
I mean, maybe I agree with the idea that human being is designed to aspire for more. But what is that more? We can talk about generating new ideas in social or scientific field, or there are people who, I don't know, on spiritual choose some spiritual practices. We don't know. This can be something new for
right.
them, but we don't know what it.
So, Katya, I think we should have a whole meeting about what does new ideas mean and what kind of new ideas there are. Creativity. We had those meetings during the summer, but I think we should repeat it to the wider audience. And all those ideas, if they lead to something that helps the higher level learning to go on, then yes. So I can imagine there is an artist who wrote some beautiful piece, and then a scientist looked at it, and that gave him idea about the general relativity or neural network or whatever. Then it is a collaborative work. Like without the artist, there would be no inspiration to.
So it sounds like you're interested in expanding the number of connections between people.
Absolutely. Non-trivial connections.
A non-monetary, like a non-monetized kind of a system.
Exactly. So I may not know how to draw well, but I know person who does. I can look at his painting or her paintings, and then that gives me enough inspiration. I can go ahead and learn it, but then why not look at this and get inspirations right away? And so, and there is, and this is like collaboration that you see right there. Maybe artists generated something that helped a scientist, and scientist described his theory, and then artist wrote a piece of art based on the theory, and then it keeps going back and forth, and then all helps people to understand the theory, and then the development of civilization goes on. So it would be an important step. But I think all this is very important. I don't know what we were talking about, but yes.
I think in defining, well, I know this person I worked with briefly. She was an indigenous Harvard psychologist, and she would say at the beginning of the class, anyone who can identify the Western system of wellness, you get an automatic A. Well,
Right.
nobody got an A. So
no, but I think this is what I think should be Western, of wellness. The point is that if it is based on money, then I'm not the right person to talk to you, because right now, if your measure of success is generating some income, then the people know how to do it much better than me. I'm saying that if the measure of success is generating new ideas, then can potentially lead to a lot more money. by the way, because the money cannot be generated with ideas, but ideas can be generated with a little money. And you don't need much for that, because people are driven to learn and discover more things regardless. They just have to be freed from all the ties. We are tied to we want to be freed from that, from the standard procedure of going through schools and learning. Like, what's the point of schooling where everybody learns the same thing? It is not needed. It's actually better for everybody.
If you don't have a social agreement, Vitaly, if I say this cup is red and you say it's orange, we can't get anywhere.
That's right. That's why you have to start with some. We had a whole discussion about education. We should do it again as well. There is basic things that we all have to learn and agree on. This is the language how we're going to exchange ideas. We cannot dispute like basic mathematics and things agreed on. But after you learn those basic language of communication, you should be free to explore ideas. And that's why at later stages in your educational career, there should be a lot more elective courses versus the what do you call it, the requirements, right? So a lot of requirements in your early studies, because we all have to develop the same skills. We have to speak the same language. We have to understand what those symbols.
So at high school, for example, my idea of ideal high school is to generate a good citizen, because some people aren't going to go on to college. Some people are not going to go to graduate school. So high school would be, you set down the basic social agreements. You study, so history is valuable.
That's right. That's right.
Things are, and
then I would say even more important to develop the critical thinking skills. History you can learn, okay, but
you can't teach critical thinking in elementary and grade school so much, because
no, but at high school level you can. Scientific methods, something that are not taught at all. How does science work? Why people question science? Because they don't understand how it works. Okay, if people understood scientific methods, there would not be no question about why science is the only way to do it. Okay, and that's why. But yeah, we're kind of off the topic. So Katya, if you want to cut us off, because there's all those things are important that we should discuss.
I don't think it's irrelevant. I think we are not in boundaries of these questions, but the topic, it's still on the topic. But we are running out of time anyway.
Yes.
I'm running out of battery too.
Yes. Okay. Good. That was great.
I think we can finalize now. I wanted to ask, but there are only Revel and Lida left. I wanted to ask about maybe some ideas how it would be comfortable to generate new questions. So where to put them, if you have some input on that. We have that big questions doc. Where
Lida, are you on the Telegram or Facebook, or where are you?
I am everywhere.
You're everywhere. Okay. So you should contact Katya is the main person now. So if you should contact with her with some, generating new questions or for future discussion. We have a very long list of questions, but and I think we can go over them many times. There's no such thing as we will never answer them all. So,
but what kind of questions, like topics, are you interested in?
anything. This is the beauty of this meetings here, that you just name the thing you're interested in, that you're trying to understand about the universe around you. It can be physics, cosmology, biology, psychology, sociology, education, linguistics. We talked about everything. And you ask a question of what does that mean? What does that mean? And then we start to discussing. So today we try to understand what does well-being mean, and how important it is, and how we can make it work. And then we had some, I think, interesting conclusions that really the reason when there is a problem is because the big corporations have different loss function, not the one that is stimulating the well-being and ideas. But yeah, I mean, it can be anything at all.
So actually, we
Yes,
can. Yes.
like our conversation was really interesting for me, because like it's like produced more questions in my head that I need to think about, because I have never thought about things like that, like psychology and philosophy is like not my topic, but it was really interesting, and it was connected to like loss function and, you know, optimizing things. So it was really interesting for me.
Perfect, thanks. So yeah, you should talk to Katya on Telegram or
Actually,
Okay.
we can post the questions everywhere in the doc, in Facebook comments, in Telegram channel, wherever is comfortable. You can post it there, and I will take it from there to the list.
Okay.
all right. Thank you.
All right. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you, Katya.
everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.